Well, Hard Knocks. You know, I was thinking about the trajectory of this, Sal. First, it was WGR goes on YouTube. Then GR goes viral with Jerry and Joe. Then the Holiday Touchdown. Then Hard Knocks. And there was one more. Oh, and you. And the Holiday Touchdown casting. The answer is Josh Allen effect. No. It's us. We're the stars.
I love it.
Maybe not. Hey, Hard Knocks, I'm excited. I think it is. I mean, for fans, it is tremendous news.
Yeah.
It makes this the best training camp ever. We're going to get more inside stuff, more player personality, even if teams are able to a degree, control what gets out there.
Yeah.
You still get more player access than you ever would get normally. You get to see these guys around each other, and I think Bills fans are going to eat it up.
Where do you want to start with this? Because there's a lot of layers to this, right?
Yeah.
With Hard Knocks, there's a lot of layers with how this happened, maybe what it's going to be like, what the Bills will kind of want, not want, what the NFL will want, not want, what the storylines will be.
Okay.
All that. Where do you want to start?
How about how it happened? Because I was listening to you explain on the afternoon show how they changed the rules, and
Yes.
that is ultimately how the Bills land here, because they would have been able to say no almost every year until now.
Yeah, so what happened was a couple of years ago, this past April, maybe owners' meetings, right around there, they changed the rules. In fact, it might have been right around even before that. The rules used to be that if you were in the playoffs any of the last 2 years, you could not be on. You were ineligible. If you had a first-year head coach, you're ineligible. I think that still might be the case, actually.
Okay. So the Bills would have been ineligible every time because they either had the first-year head coach or they had made the playoffs in the last 2 years.
They took away the playoff requirement, basically, and said, well, we don't really want teams with new head coaches. That's too disruptive to what they're trying to do with a new program. But guess what? You've been in the playoffs. All these same teams are making the playoffs, maybe the team that we might want on Hard Knocks. So, plus we have lots of teams that don't want to do it. That's part of this, Jeremy.
Yeah.
When I was at the owners' meetings, and even going back to the Combine, actually, I can remember a conversation at the Combine with someone in the NFL who said, yeah, they might be having a hard time finding a team this year because of what happened with the Giants last year.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be put in that position. Well, now you narrow down the possibilities, and you have teams that don't want to be in it. Well, you have to change maybe the parameters of who can be in it, who can say no, really. It's really not who can be in it, it's who can't be in it. Who is eligible to say, I don't want to be in it, I'm not doing that. The Bills are no longer in that boat. And I'm going to tell you here, it is clear to me, and I think it's the tea leaves are right there, folks. The Bills have always said, it's not something we're interested in. Mm-hmm. We do embedded, that's good for us. We know how Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane run their program. I would also tell you, I think it's not a coincidence. The Bills have not officially announced this yet. It is not on their social media. It is not anywhere where you can say them going, hey, we're going to be on Hard Knocks. It's pretty clear here to me and how I know and read the situation that the league said, we want you on, and the Bills really couldn't do anything about it, so now they'll be on, but they'll work through it and how this will work best for both sides.
Yeah. Well, okay, they're on. So they might not want it. Sal, I have seen Hard Knocks in the chat and YouTube. Somebody pointed out, never seen a single episode. So maybe we should lay out what people should expect because you maybe don't have HBO over the years. It's been on for a long time. What are we on, 10 years, 15?
I think I looked yesterday, 2001.
Okay.
2001.
24
with
years.
The Ravens was the first one, I think, from what I looked yesterday, but I'll make sure again.
It used to be that it was about fringe players getting cut inside the meetings of guys getting cut, getting the pink slip. And they kind of got away from that a little bit, if I'm not mistaken. Like, I watched the first couple seasons. I remember a Bengals season that I'd seen. And occasionally, we get highlights in this. But has it moved away from that and been more about the personal stories of these guys trying to make it? They just have left the room when they're getting cut. Because I remember people started to feel like that seems like it's a really intimate moment, a really hard moment for you to just take me into this guy. Oh, sorry, buddy, you didn't make the team. You're gone. So that part of it might not be there. What is still there for Hard Knocks?
So I think every team is different. If you go back to Chicago last year, you had the Jets. The year before that, the Detroit Lions. We've had the Jets a couple of times now, once with Rex Ryan. Sometimes it's really just a lot about what's on the field. Sometimes they highlight a lot more of what's going on off the field. Players' lives, their relationships, maybe even. They'll go and follow their spouses and them, their kids, and what they do off the field. Dorm room life, if it's training camp. We've seen a lot of that. So a lot of that is kind of maybe negotiated or talked about on what you want to highlight. I think it's a good discussion today of what will the NFL want to highlight with the Buffalo Bills. Then when it comes time to what does the public actually see, I can tell you this. The team has much more control now than they did years ago. It used to be where team kind of doesn't really have much control. And then it's like, hey, we're kind of at a disadvantage, competitive disadvantage. There's a lot of things getting out that doesn't make us look good. If a guy says something like that. So they started to give a little bit more control. And I think also because of the advent of things like embedded, teams controlling their own message. Lots of teams are like, why do I want to do Hard Knocks? And Hard Knocks, I think HBO had to basically kind of say, okay, well, we'll let you have more editorial control then to be able to do this to make it work for both sides. So while the NFL still wants to get things out there, the NFL is still going to say, hey, NFL Films is going to say we really want this, that, or something else. Teams do have a say in what gets out. To what exact level do they have full editorial control? I'm not sure about that. Maybe that's something we could talk about when we talk Brandon Beane, Sean McDermott, and find out this process a little bit more. I also think this, Jeremy, though. Think about what happened with the Giants. I bet you there were a lot of times where the Giants were like, yeah, okay, that was cool. That was cool. And then the public reception was just so bad on something they never thought would be that bad.
Yeah.
A meeting with Mara, right, and Joe Shane. That just, oh my God, I can't believe they said that. Where maybe they get from the cutting room floor and like, oh yeah, that's a good conversation. Good look into how we operate. All of a sudden it gets out there and it's like, oh my God, I can't believe he said that.
I always thought that a lot of the Giant stuff was overblown because what did we learn? We learned that they thought no one would pay Saquon Barkley what he got paid. And they were wrong about that, and it was a division rival, and then they won the Super Bowl. So I guess it got worse as it went along. If Barkley had gotten that contract to go somewhere else and not won the Super Bowl, does it still stick the same way? Maybe, maybe not. A team deciding to not pay a running back, for all the points about how that might have looked bad for the Giants, I mean, we can talk about James Cook, which will be a storyline at Bills training camp, right?
Might be.
And how many Bills fans are ready to say, like, I wouldn't pay that running back? It's just kind of normal for me to see a team say, I don't think we should pay that guy that amount of money. And then we also saw their draft board to a degree. We saw some color coding and some names, and there was speculation about whether or not you could get much out of there. I just felt like the Giants' Hard Knock sell was an honest look inside. And it's not lost on me that, NFL teams are going to say, oh, we don't want you to have that, right? We don't want you to see how we evaluate, and we don't want you to see our process. So, there'll be, sure, fights over editorial control and all that and what they show. The storylines, who will be interesting, is Keon Coleman one of the first that came to mind for you? Because not only is Coleman a personality, but he's also a guy that has a lot to prove here in year two. They can play a lot of stuff coming in to tell backstories. I had somebody write to me right away and say, like, oh, yeah, you and Bean, that's going to be a backstory there. Like, maybe, maybe not. Bean on Coleman and McDermott on Coleman saying, maybe a little disappointed, want to see what he can do in year two. To me, that's an obvious backstory. Track Coleman, track what he looks like at camp. And he's a personality who's going to be funny that people are going to kind of like go right to right away. Like, to me, Keon Coleman's on the short list of guys that would probably get attention at Hard Knocks.
Agreed. Look, I would not doubt if HBO goes back and uses the clip from that Monday morning with you and Brandon Beane because they want to fill in the backstory of why we're talking about Keon Coleman, why we're focusing on this player.
Right.
And they'll use, the clip of him saying what he did at the end of last season about Keon Coleman. It's all going to come together, right? It's all part of the story to get to where they need to land for Hard Knocks. 100%. If you're talking about personalities, Keon Coleman is one of the first that come to mind. I think Deion Dawkins absolutely comes to mind.
Yep.
Deion Dawkins is going to be a star of Hard Knocks simply because Deion Dawkins is just kind of a star wherever he goes. That's his personality. He's a guy that has He does not mind being in front of the camera. He's a guy that doesn't mind being in the limelight. Sometimes he even relishes it or seeks it out because that's just who he is. There's nothing wrong with that. And he's a really good player, by the way.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't think that's any surprise. Is there anything with Deion other than that, though, that gets people to be invested in a character? Because what happens in Hard Knocks is right, Jeremy. You said it earlier. Let's take it from a non-Bills perspective. If you're a fan of another team looking at the Buffalo Bills, you know Deion. You should. You know Josh Allen. There are guys, you might know Keon Coleman. There's going to be a guy or two they're going to pick and say, let's get people invested in this guy and his journey throughout Hard Knocks.
You know, you might be a good person to answer this. Who is a Bills budding personality that people don't know enough? I mean, the joke here to make is, will Matt Milano speak on camera?
What's the odds?
Who's that guy? Oh, that's Milano. He doesn't talk. Is Terrell Bernard somebody like this? Is Max Hairston, right? Like, who are the personalities that are kind of just waiting to bubble up and pop? The tight ends are a good story here, whether it's, Knox and Kincaid, to focus in on them and their relationship and relationships with Josh. Like, the whole thing, it's going to be so great because, training camp is fun. We're there most days. You're there every day. You get to see what you see. And, they talk about it, but they're talking practice. And then once a week, we all tune into HBO and watch and see some behind-the-scenes stuff. And whether that's, a player, personality, a relationship, I just think it's so great. And so happy for Bills fans. One thing I'm kind of surprised about is, the Bills are no doubt interesting to me. But if you're HBO or Max or HBO Max or whatever it's called right now, I think they went back to HBO Max. You are trying to give an NFL product and get subscriptions. And I guess I'm surprised that you'd go to Buffalo because just the sheer number of how many people might subscribe for 2 months to get this product, to see this, and then, hey, we've got them hooked because we offer this and this and this. Wouldn't you think you'd go to some massive market that simply has 10 times the people that might sign up? But then again, that's probably a testament to they know how, I don't know, rabid the Bills fan base is and how, we give them a little nugget, they're just going to be all over it. So
I'm just thinking out loud here because I don't know this. I have to do I don't know all of these different streaming platforms and who's affiliated. HBO Max and Disney and Marvel?
Maybe.
And Haley Steinfeld?
Okay. Are they?
If I think it might be. It says here Disney, including Marvel. The bundle includes Disney Plus content, including Marvel movies and shows, as well as Hulu and Max.
Okay. Well,
now, so you get where I'm going with this,
is that
right?
a part of it? Yeah.
If you're Max and you have Haley Steinfeld marrying Josh Allen, and this actress who's going to be in these movies who are on some of your streaming platforms, that's a pretty good way to cross-promote and get people to subscribe.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
And, I mean, you could probably just sell Josh Allen as an actual Marvel hero.
You could do that. Josh, it was announced he was having that production company that he's starting. Mm-hmm. He's also the league MVP. I mean, he is marrying a Hollywood star. To me, that is a story in itself this offseason. The maturity and growth of Josh Allen, where he came from to where he is. That story is a great story. You add on, put part of it with who he's marrying, and he just turned 29. What, yesterday? Was it yesterday? Was his birthday? I think it was.
Yep, yesterday.
Just turned 29. Josh Allen, in this phase of his career, he just signed the most guaranteed money deal ever in the history of the National Football League. It was a guaranteed money, total money, whatever. Largest deal ever. So I just think that's a big storyline to get people around the country, around the world who say, oh, yeah, I'm invested in looking at that guy and that story.